It's training camp when we're doing this from a dorm.
Yeah, when we're knee to knee in a dorm and we're balancing the computer that we're recording this on
Here
a
we are,
box of
knee to knee. How you feeling? Wacky
on a
over
box
there.
of K-cups so we can be eye level. That's dorm life here at St. John Fisher.
Hope the lighting's okay for everybody. We got our I got my window open over here at Dorsey Hall. It's been raining out actually. We didn't hit the rain practice, which was good, right?
Yeah.
I know. So hey, it's day one is in the book. Sal Capaccio, Matt Bove here. It's always game day in Buffalo. Man, we're gonna be trying to bring as much as we can. There's so much content to always get to every day, so we'll do our best. Where do you want to start today? There was a lot that happened.
I want to start with Keon Coleman.
All right.
And I want to start with Dalton Kincaid because I think those are the two guys that most Bills fans would have their eye on and have their hopes very high for this season. And I think they both had fantastic first days, especially Dalton Kincaid. Keon Coleman is the one that, everybody wants to see because he's the first pick from the draft that just happened a couple months ago. He had a couple catches that were really close to whether they were in or they were out. Mm-hmm. They were like toe tap catches. But he just looks like he belongs, at least in the red zone, which is a place where they have needed another target. And Dalton Kincaid is another guy. So both of these guys, whether or not Coleman caught the one touchdown, he had at least one, probably two. Dalton Kincaid had two. And Dalton Kincaid just looks like he's ready to explode.
Yeah, I had actually Kincaid down for 3.
Okay.
This is all in red zone work. You ready? Check this. Dalton Kincaid I had for 3. Keon Coleman for 1, Frank Gore Jr. for 1, Justin Shorter for 1, MVS for 1, and Tyrell Shavers for 1.
Dawson Knox had 1 also.
Thank you, Dawson Knox. I knew I might have missed one. I actually tweeted out that I might have missed one. There were so many of them. Mm-hmm. For the red zone offense to be as on point as it was, I think really speaks to you. That's where you really got to have some chemistry at tight spaces, right? So that was a real nice start for the Buffalo Bills. Keon Coleman in the red zone. But I also think it just speaks to, I asked Josh about this, the plethora of weapons they're going to have. We make enough about, do they have enough? Maybe they just have a lot of guys. They have a lot of options. Do you have the Stephon Diggs? No, not that true number 1. But as we know, they built this team around a lot of guys who could do a lot of different things.
Sean McDermott said, we don't know what we have, but we know what we have. And I think his way of what he meant by that was the analogy he did was it's like when you open the drawer of your kitchen cabinet and there's all these different utensils in there and you don't exactly know what all of them are for. That's how he looks at the wide receiver room, which is interesting because he's got weird analogies for wide receivers. A couple of years ago, he had the Smurfs when it was John Brown and Cole Beasley and Isaiah McKenzie. Now they're the utensils, whatever that ends up being. But they got a lot of guys, right? They do not have a true number 1. And I think they realize they don't have a true number 1, but I think their offense is going to be built to not have a true number 1. I think their true number 1, even though people roll their eyes when they hear this, is Dalton Kincaid.
I agree.
He is going to be their primary target in the passing game.
Yeah. So do they, like when they get together for a wide receiver group, now they say, on 3 utensils, 1, 2, 3 utensils.
Yeah.
That might be something they can do.
Fork, knife, spoon.
That's it. They have to figure out who's going to be doing what. So Kincaid looked every bit the part. What did you think about how Keon Coleman looked? There was some video you can find. We all have video out there. I know I posted something of the very first pass that Josh threw to him in the, pre-practice session, the individual session. And it was very similar to that last pass that he threw to him in minicamp where Keon climbed the ladder, catches it, and he kind of spins on his way out of bounds. And he had a couple of those, but it feels like, this kid with such a big catch radius he has. And then the very next one, he runs a little, out pattern. He also had one right in his hands on a slant that he dropped. Right. So, those are obviously things need to clean up. One thing I do think that I'm going to be watching for is his get off, his release. He chops his feet a little bit. Yeah, I think that's something that people have talked about a lot, but we'll see, where that translates going forward.
Yeah, a little clunky, but I don't think that he's ever going to be the precision route runner. He's a different receiver. So if you look at him and then you look at Stephon Diggs, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, look at this guy's get off. It's not nearly as smooth as it needs to be. Well, that's not the type of receiver he's going to be. He's going to be even though I hate them, the goal line fade. It's like throw it up and let him go in at the point of attack or just let him stretch the field. I think that you need to expect more of a Gabe Davis type role than a Stephon Diggs type role when it comes to Keon Coleman. That doesn't mean they're the same player. I'm just saying like the usage I think is going to be more similar to Gabe Davis than it was to Diggs.
So maybe the most notable development for me today was Damar Hamlin was starting at safety. Now, it might be because Mike Edwards did not have enough reps. I understand that. So I want to leave that open for tomorrow and the next day and see what happens, especially when you get pads on. It might be a nod to, hey, Damar was here he worked his butt off.
That's what I think it is.
But you have other guys too. Damar Hamlin starting at safety. You also have Cam Lewis on the roster. Yeah. He wasn't put out there. Damar Hamlin started at safety next to Taylor Rapp.
What I think, to your point, I think it was hey, you did a really good job in the spring, and we're going to put you here to start training camp. But in their head, they think it's going to be Taylor Rapp and Mike Edwards. And Sean McDermott even kind of tipped his hand a little bit by saying that they were envisioning Mike Edwards as one of their starters in the spring until he had his injury. Right. So I think that this is that. I think that it's like, well, Mike Edwards, you need to get caught up to speed. You missed most of the spring, and Damar had a good spring. We're going to put him there for now. What I do think about Damar, though, is 3 months ago, I don't think I would have said he's going to make the team. I think he has climbed the ladder a little bit as probably the fourth safety. I think it's Edward, in no particular order, Edwards, Rapp, definitely Cole Bishop, and then probably Damar Hamlin. And I think Cam Lewis' job is safe because he can do so many different things.
I think I have the full roster here still. That's just the offense. I don't have the defense that I can bring up for everybody right now, but you and I can look at it real quick. Let's take a look at the defense here. Here's the safeties. Matt and I are looking at this. You can't see it on the screen. Rapp, Edwards, Bishop, Lewis, Hamlin. And even I put together kind of a loose depth chart. I have him as 5. Right?
Yeah.
Damar Hamlin, and then it's D. Delaney, Kendall Williamson. So you're right. The question is, do they keep 5? But because of Cam Lewis's versatility, you don't have to count him as a safety. He's your backup corner, your backup nickel corner. So I agree with you. And for all those people, I think at least through one practice, I've been proven right. You've been proven right that Cole Bishop isn't ready to start necessarily. That's not a role they envision him having right away.
Yeah, I believe that Sean McDermott was asked if safety is the hardest position for a rookie to get acclimated on, and he said besides quarterback. He said besides quarterback, it's probably safety and middle linebacker. Those are the 2 positions that he believes take the longest time to develop. I think they're going to be very methodical with Cole Bishop. I think he's going to be on the field in certain situations. I almost think that they're going to use him in like a depth safety, big nickel role this year, like almost they did with kind of Saran Neal for a couple of years. I think he's going to get on the field more than that, but I think they like his skill set there. And then eventually he can take over and become one of the 2 starting safeties. I just don't see it happening now. I don't see him winning the job in training camp, but he has the opportunity because if he has an amazing training camp, it's not like it's Mike Edwards and Taylor Rapp. Ironclad, they have to start. It's not like Poyer and Hyder in front of them. Those are 2 guys who you can beat if you have a really good summer.
Another guy scored a touchdown. I can't remember if it was in the same period, but I'm just remembering I didn't put him down. Ray Davis scored.
Ray Davis had a touchdown. Ray Davis had like a little kind of like just cut to the corner and then just I don't even know if it was.
What do you see his role this year? Because I go back and forth. You know me. I've said I don't want to take a running back in the middle rounds. Like it just doesn't fit. You can get running backs anywhere. I mean, they got Frank Gore Jr. later. By the fact that they drafted him in the 4th round means they're going to use him. They're going to put him on the field. Question is, to me, are you only putting him on the field running short yardage? Is he a true 3-down number 2 back for this team? You also have Ty Johnson.
Yeah.
What do you envision his role?
I think Ray Davis is going to be the primary backup pass catching running back, and Ty Johnson is going to be the primary backup rushing running back to James Cook. I think both of them are going to get a pretty equal workload. I really liked what Ty Johnson did. I'm probably a little bit too high on Ty Johnson, maybe compared to at least some of our peers and other people around the league. But I do think that it's James Cook here, and then it's those 2 guys kind of neck and neck. But I think Ray Davis will be the one they use more heavily in the passing game. And I think that was one of the big selling points for them, that he can contribute in screen passes, on wheel routes, scored the touchdown like we saw today. Like he can do a lot of different things. I'm not saying Ty Johnson can't do that, but I think they view Ty Johnson more as a running back.
Ray Davis was one of quite a few people who missed the last part of minicamp with injuries, but not the case today. The first thing, best news you could hear all the day right away was Sean McDermott saying, everyone's going to participate in a full capacity. And they did. And that included Matt Milano, of course. Matt Milano did everything that everybody else did. Now, he did say they're going to manage guys, but that comes with it. Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde got managed kind of at their ages, right? Now, Milano is 30 years old, I believe he is now. But Matt seemed like he was playing every position, playing his position, playing every play and every rep that anybody else would be in his situation if healthy.
Yeah, regardless of what happened actually on the field today, like we start this podcast by saying the offense had a really good day in the red zone. The most important thing that happened today was that Matt Milano was a participant at practice today. And this is not linear. This is not like he doesn't practice today and he just continues to practice every single day. And then all of a sudden he's a full go. There's going to be bumps along the way, which is what we need to expect. Like when they put on pads for the first time as a team, maybe he doesn't right away. But I think the fact that we saw him today and we saw him lining up next to Terrell Bernard, that tells me they have plans that this guy is going to be there week 1 against the Cardinals on September 8th.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Von Miller, I didn't see a lot of Von Miller today. I know he was in the rotation. He was out there a little bit. I wrote down some numbers like who was with the first group, second group. On one of them, he was on my number 40 right there. So I know he started out in one of the series. I didn't see a lot of them today.
Yeah. Can you flip over your page again? Because it's amazing what Von Miller could do for this defense, because there's a lot of questions. But if you get half of what Von Miller once was, I think you'd feel really good about the combination of Von Miller, Daquan Jones, Ed Oliver, Greg Rousseau, Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard,
I mean, come on.
Taron Johnson, whoever they have at safeties, Benford, Will Douglas. Like, that is a very, I know the safety is probably a little bit weak and the pass rush is probably a bit more inconsistent than you would like. But if Von Miller can be a 5, 6, 7 sack guy and Greg Rousseau can be an 8, 9, 10 sack guy and AJ Epinesa can do the same thing he's done for the last couple of years, I think with the guys you have on the interior, you can get by there.
Yeah.
Like Daquan Jones was so good until he got hurt last year, and Ed Oliver was exceptional. So, like, I think that line is built from the inside out, and that's where they're going to be getting most of their pressure. And then it's just down to Rousseau or to Von Miller to finish. So Von Miller's a really interesting player this year.
So a little peek behind the curtain. Literally, that's all it is. I write down numbers. There it is, folks. There's the numbers. I wrote them down. I was standing next to Joe DiBiase, my co-host on WGR. I said, Joe, just start shouting numbers and blue jerseys right now to me. So, and that's how you got to do it.
You made
sometimes.
a mistake.
What did I do?
You're not co-host anymore.
I'm not. I was with him last week. Though Jeremy went on.
You keep doing that.
That's right.
You keep doing that. Yeah.
Former co-host.
Your former co-host
with Jeremy and Joe.
I mean, he's still your colleague and
he
your
is my
friend.
colleague. He is He is a fellow WGR host.
Yes, right? There you go.
But he was out there, and I said, just show me the numbers, and we were doing that. Okay, one of the notes I made here: the hands of Khalil Shakir, undoubted, and I think it's notable because we were questioning that last year. If you remember last camp, right? Last camp we were here, and we're like, man, Khalil Shakir, like he's not having a good. Today, I thought as soon as the ball got to anywhere near him, he was catching it.
That's like the Eric Moulds effect, right? It's like you go and you work out with Eric Moulds. It's like going to bring everything in.
Yeah.
What we always said about Khalil Shakir was that he makes the hard catches and drops the easy ones. And that was what he did in the first 2 preseasons of his time in the NFL. 2 years ago and then last year. And then because of everything that happened at wide receiver last year, he kind of got thrusted into a bigger role. And then in the actual regular season emerged as a sure-handed weapon for this team. And now I don't think anybody is thinking about the conversations we had a year ago because he was so strong in the second half of last season and the postseason. I still think he's the guy who can make the crazy catches that you don't anticipate him to make. But I also just don't ever really have doubts that he's going to bring in a ball if it's a catch he is supposed to have.
I also saw Daquan Hardy out there a little bit. It's a guy that, they're going to be, as a rookie, looking at not only the secondary, but, to return punts and kicks.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch any of the kickoff stuff today?
I did not. I did not.
I did because I'm so interested in the kickoff stuff. But I would recommend you watch it tomorrow when they do it. It is just so weird.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going to sit here and tell you where they're lined up, what the strategy is. But here's the weird part. It's just so odd to watch the ball in the air, Matt, and nobody can move until the ball is caught.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so different when you come out to practice.
It's like frozen in time.
Yes.
Everybody's watching
it, and then it hits. And they were working on going full speed. One of the things that I've noticed about the kickoff is because you have to wait and everybody's so close, it might only take like one broken tackle and you're out the door because there's going to be like one wave coming at you. But that's something to watch for fans when they come out to camp is, watch the kickoffs, watch the kickoff returns, watch what they're doing there. You and I had a discussion, and today was not a day that we saw anything with the kicking unit, really.
Mm-hmm.
But Jack Browning, I think, has an opportunity here. That's an area where we're going to be paying attention, punting and return. Not that Browning's a returner, but the return man on kickoffs and punt returns. So as things go on, we'll kind of get a little more of a feel for that.
Yeah, the other day at Channel 7, I did like a 5 players I'm most interested in as we head to training camp here. And the players that I picked were Keon Coleman, because kind of obvious. Von Miller. I picked Browning as one of them. I picked KJ Hamler as one of the guys. And who was the
Matt
other
Milano?
one I picked? No, it wasn't Matt Milano. I'll think of it eventually. But I do think that Browning has a legitimate chance of making an impact on this team.
I do too. Go back to Matt Milano for a second. I just remembered I talked with Terrell Bernard after practice a little bit.
Yeah.
And I said, what's it like having? I said, it's good. I said, it's good to see you and Matt together, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And Matt, it's just so funny. Like fans can say, oh my God, it's great to have Matt Milano. Terrell Bernard was like, oh my God, Sal, what a difference. And it's tough because these are your other teammates. You're not saying anything against. And I said, well, it's nothing against the other guys, right?
No,
it's like,
it's
right,
just,
of course. But Matt, he said he just understands everything about where to be, when to be there.
Mm-hmm.
He everything he can do just allows Terrell Bernard to even be better.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we only got to see it for 4.5 games, not even 4.5 games. They looked so good together. They looked like they played off of each other well. They are a bit as a unit undersized.
Yep.
So you wonder if they could be exposed a little bit. And not really Matt Milano either, but you wonder if teams could run on them in the interior because they are a little small. But the coverage and the way the teams play in the NFL right now, those are the types of guys that you have. I thought Terrell Bernard really exceeded my expectations last year, and he did that without Matt Milano for most of the year. I mean, you think back to those first couple games, they were all over the place. They were making so many plays and splash plays and turnovers and causing havoc. So I think we'll see a lot of that this year. I do think that sometimes when you set the expectation so high, Terrell Bernard is now, it's different. Everybody knows who Terrell Bernard is. There are big expectations for him. So you're going to need to see how teams react to that and how teams ultimately attack him. I have no doubts with Matt Milano as long as he's healthy. And I could totally understand why Bernard feels that way. And also the player was Kyrie. The fifth player was Kyrie.
Okay. And nothing notable from Kyrie necessarily today, but notable from Sean McDermott that he said Kyrie will be with the ones and the twos a little bit as we roll on here. And I mean, look, they rotate anyway, but that speaks a lot to Kyrie Elam and what he did in the spring and rolling it in here. So he's going to get a little opportunity with the ones. All right, that's on the field. Then we hear from Brandon Beane. First question out of the chute from our colleague Josh Reed. He asked Brandon Beane what he thought about an anonymous executive calling Josh Allen overrated. We all saw this, right? In case you didn't, ESPN, Jeremy Fowler, every year does a series. He polls scouts, executives, and coaches. He asks them to rank players each position. He has a top 10, honorable mention, a receiving votes, and he has quotes. And one quote was an executive calling Josh Allen overrated.
Yeah. That executive probably isn't very good at his job. The one thing that Brandon Beane said, well, Brandon Beane did not mince words. Brandon Beane said that, yes, he is biased, but he's sick of the Josh Allen basically hate. And he also said that there are idiots out there.
There are idiots everywhere.
There are idiots everywhere.
What a quote.
He also said, which I thought was really interesting, and this like peels back the curtain a bit, that he would have probably been considered an NFL executive for a story like this before he ever actually was an NFL executive. So
you never know who is actually being interviewed.
I don't think that that's a shot at Jeremy Fowler at all. I just think that that's a shot at, like the process of putting something like this together. Right. And probably one person who, I don't know, maybe had a bad experience with the Buffalo Bills organization or got burned by the Bills and, is just trying to kind of like take a little bit of a jab at them. I just don't get it. Like I truly believe, and I don't think I'm doing this from a bias standpoint. I think Josh Allen is the second best player in the league. Oh. I really do believe that. And if you want to tell me he's in the top 5, but you don't think he's the second, I totally get it. But overrated is so stupid.
In fact, Beane said if I was going to use a rated word, I'd say underrated.
Yeah.
Which was interesting, right? Yeah. And he said, and I agree with him. It's funny. People ask me who would say something like that. I said, look, I think it comes from, we all know Josh was very polarizing when he was getting drafted through the pre-draft process. A lot of executives, scouts, whoever said they were dug in on, oh, he'll never be good. To me, it sounds like someone who still wants to hold on to that belief and doesn't want to admit they're wrong.
Mina Kimes was one of those people who was really hard on Josh Allen and said that this was a big mistake. And then I heard her comment about this and basically said, like, listen, guys, I was at the forefront of the Josh Allen criticism coming out of college. And if you don't think he's the second best quarterback in the NFL, I think that you don't know what you're watching, basically. Right. So I think there are some people who have turned around on the Josh Allen kind of experience. The other thing, I just feel like there's so many different misconceptions about him of like, oh, he turns the ball over in the big moments. That's the farthest thing from the truth.
That's right.
He protects the ball. He's sloppy with it in the moments where, a game really doesn't matter. Or, there are times when his mistakes have hurt the Bills. There's no doubt. But the good so far outweighs the bad.
That's right.
They're so good.
That's the point. And Beane said the same thing. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
He had, and I tweeted this out back in January, but again recently because I wanted people to see it because there was another discussion on this. Josh Allen has the lowest ever interception rate of any quarterback who's ever started at least 10 NFL games under center.
Yeah.
Playoff games in the postseason. So take all the quarterbacks in the history of the league who started at least 10 postseason games. Josh has a 1.1 interception rate. That's the lowest of any of them.
And I think back to the playoffs too, like some of his best performances have been on the biggest stage. And I think that's what you need from your quarterback. I think that's one of the reasons why Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the league. It's not just that he's really good and a freak in the regular season. He turns it on to another level in the playoffs. But I think back to Josh Allen's career. I think he was sloppy in the first ever playoff game he played against Houston.
Mhm.
I think he was bad, as the entire team was, against the Bengals the year they lost in the divisional round.
Yep.
And then he had a bad throw in the Chiefs game this past year to Khalil Shakir. A bad throw. But other than that, I thought he had a good game.
Which wasn't totally his fault, the bad
No.
throw, because he was off balance because unfortunately Deion was blocking Chris Jones and it didn't work out all that great in that situation. Anything else from Beane that stood out to you that he said? I'm not really
Micah Hyde, that they're still not like, that was a very much to me like Micah will come back if we have an injury or if we need him.
Right.
But at this current moment, I don't think
people ask us about Micah all the time. I always get asked about Micah.
Yeah.
Someone said to me today, any word on Micah's decision? Look, there's not a decision he has to make. His decision, he's going to stay healthy and be available if and when the time is right. Maybe the time won't be right.
His decision is more of a reaction. I think his reaction to if one of those four guys we mentioned gets hurt, really one of the top two. Whatever guy ends up being one of the starters, if one of those players goes down, I think Micah Hyde then gets the phone call. You want to come back? You want to play for 8 games? We think you can help us. And I mean, he has said it's Buffalo or nowhere. So he is staying ready to potentially be a member of the Buffalo Bills, not to go take a phone call and go, play for the Bucks or play for the Giants or some other random team. I just don't see that happening.
Join Jordan Poyer in Miami.
Yeah. What if there was an injury at Jordan? Like, what if Holland gets hurt and they make a phone call and they're like, hey, do you want to go play with Jordan Poyer for 1 year? But the funny thing about that is, even though I know those two guys are like brothers on the field, I do not see him going and playing for Miami. I just don't.
So I don't know if you know this. Javon Holland did get hurt today.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did. You just said that he did. I don't know how serious it is, but I had read he got hurt. He was being looked at. He never took another rep after that.
Oh, interesting.
So I know it's kind of interesting and ironic you said that. Speaking of injuries, today, I think the only one I saw was Chase Claypool got a little banged up, but I don't think it seemed like anything serious.
No, it didn't seem like anything serious because he kept. I'm just looking up Javon Holland on Twitter right now.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like anything serious because he never left the field, and then they did a ton of work after the fact, and he was there for that. So I think if it was anything, like, this is the time when you don't push it. If he gets a little bit banged up, maybe we see him as a non-participant tomorrow, but I'm not, incredibly concerned about Chase Claypool in any way.
Did you find him, Javon Holland?
No, I just searched Holland. So there's a lot of, I'm getting a lot of Tom Holland's tweets right now. Actually, all Tom Holland's tweets. So I'll have to search.
So Adam Beasley.
Yeah.
Here's a story. It says Miami practice report, a scary start to training camp for Javon Holland. Javon Holland had a hard fall after getting jolted in coverage and hardly saw the field afterwards.
Interesting.
So there you go. There's Javon Holland. But you never like to see anybody get hurt.
Biggest thing training camp, just team stay healthy.
Yeah,
that's the biggest
thing.
Regardless of chemistry, all these things, like, you just want your team to stay healthy as you get ready for the regular season.
So let's set everybody up for tomorrow. Back at it at 9:45, but we're gonna hear from who's tomorrow.
It's either Brady or Babbage. It's one of the two.
I'm pretty positive it's Brady, but I'm gonna check right now.
I'm pretty sure it's Brady also.
I'm gonna check on that.
That's another interesting layer too. Sean McDermott said that he has pretty much made a decision on who is going to call plays on defense, but he doesn't feel comfortable sharing it yet. Does that lead you in either direction? To me, that makes me think that Babbage is calling the plays.
I've always thought Babbage is calling it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna stay with that. Joe Brady at 9:15 a.m.
Joe Brady, 9:15 a.m.
Yeah.
Then we'll get probably Bobby Babbage on Friday. My best guess, this is an educated guess.
Yes.
I think they probably put pads on Sunday, right?
First 3 days, probably. I think the CBA would dictate that.
Okay, so first 3 days, no pads. Then Saturday, off day, Sunday. Probably, maybe they do it on Monday, but that's just my guess.
Hey, if you get a chance, everybody, go listen to the first part of Brandon Beane's press conference. It is super interesting listening to him talk about Josh Allen. It's like a good 5 to 10 minutes.
It's his guy. It's like, don't talk blank about my guy.
So Matt will have all that coverage at WKBW TV Channel 7. We'll be talking about it on WGR Sports Radio 550. We'll be back at it tomorrow. We'll do some interior decorating in here, wherever else we're going to do it tomorrow. And we'll always be talking with you on It's Always Game Day in Buffalo. All right, what do you got? You got a lot of work, then you got dinner. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I don't know yet. I got a lot of stuff that I still got to figure out. We're recording this in the afternoon, so, go on TV. One thing, another plug, July 29th, Bar Bill, right? It's July 29th.
Very please. Yes, thank you. July 29th, Monday, July 29th.
Monday, July 29th, 7 p.m., Bar Bill East location. We will be there. I met a couple different listeners from the podcast today. I believe Christina was one of their names. She came up from Virginia from today. She married a Bills fan, got really, really into the Bills, and then obviously loves the team enough that she drove up from Virginia. She said she listens to the podcast. She said we have like a random group of 6 people who listen to the podcast now in Virginia, who she has made start listening to the
I love
podcast.
it.
So
Thank you,
if
Christina.
you are out of training camp and you see us, come say hello. We
Yes.
love meeting people who listen to the podcast. We really appreciate all the support we've gotten. And yeah, we're excited for the Barbell show on the 29th.
And I was asked by a young man named Christian. Well, I met Christian, another young man, I don't remember his name. He said, but Sal, can you do me a favor? Can you give a shout out to the Special Olympics who are here
That's
watching
awesome.
practice? And they were out there today, members of the Special Olympics. So Rochester, Western New York, Buffalo, and I don't remember the exact area if they're from.
Mm-hmm.
But I told them I would. So special shout out to the Special Olympics athletes and people and support group and everybody else I met out there today. It was super cool meeting you and seeing you. And I'm glad that you're out there saying hi to us. So thank you so much.
Yes, that's very, very cool. The other thing today is I've had several people come up to me and talk about the travel story.
Wow.
A lot of
you
people
gotta go listen.
A lot of people have been like, I cannot, our peers and just also like random fans here. And they're like, after hearing your travel story, I don't know if I want to travel anytime soon. And I'm like, well, I don't think it'll ever be anything like that. But yeah, we got some good feedback.
And real quick update, my wife and son are in the Bahamas. They made it. They got out. So thank you. It was great. And
yeah,
they're there. I'm here. I'm covering training camp. He's covering training camp. We're going to be here all week, especially back at it tomorrow. And it's always game day in Buffalo.